It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy the grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. I'm your host, Patrick Brown. Joining me, as always, are my line mates, Devin Little and Kyle Knopp, and we are truly grateful that you've joined us for another episode. Well, we're in the middle of summer now, and there is absolutely nothing to talk about. Wrong. My goodness, do we have a jam-packed show for you today, especially if you're a fan of drafts. We've got expansion drafts, we've got entry drafts, we've got beer drafts. All right, well, you get the gist of it. You get the gist. So let's dive in because, like I said, there is a lot of ground to cover. So a lot of stuff coming up this upcoming week, and we're going to start today with the expansion draft. Now, really quick, we're going to dive in pretty deep. So if you're watching us for the first time, or if you're just hearing about the expansion draft for the first time, let's give you a little refresher of what it entails. So the Seattle Kraken, who will be joining the league next year, will be selecting one player from every team except Vegas, who were the expansion team just a few years ago. Protected lists are going to be submitted on July 17th. And at that point, Seattle actually has 3 days or so to talk to any unrestricted free agents who are unprotected. And if they sign one of them, that counts as their pick. Otherwise, all NHL teams can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or 8 skaters total and 1 goalie. A few caveats here and there. Any player who has a no movement clause, they must be protected unless they agree to waive it. First and second year professional players, as well as any unsigned draft choices, are also exempt. And there are some other minimum requirements we don't need to necessarily get into the nitty gritty on, but there's a minimum number of games played that has to be met. Anybody who's been injured for a long time or maybe sustained a career-ending injury as well. So all of those considerations. But overall, the gist of it is the Red Wings are going to have to put some players out there, and Seattle's going to pick them. So let's talk about that. We have seen a flurry of activity from across the league this past week, even as teams prepare for the expansion draft. The Red Wings have remained relatively quiet, but the draft is coming up, and we're curious, especially as moves have to be done by a certain time. Should the Red Wings be making a move in anticipation of the draft? And Devin, I want to start with you on this one. You've cranked out a ton of expansion draft content and things like that. And I'm just curious your thoughts on, start with you. Do the Red Wings, did they miss the boat? Do they still have time? Should they have made a move?
They have time, but it's running out. By the time this video comes out, time will be up. So the Red Wings are lucky. They don't have to make a move. They can stand pat and they will be perfectly fine. If they're making moves, it's going to be one of 2 things. It'll be to help a team with their expansion draft list, and they'll get compensation in doing that. And then another move they could make would be to add a piece, maybe target a goaltender, maybe target a blue liner that is on his way out. I wrote the piece that you're referring, or at least one of the pieces that you're referring to, was 3 teams that they could kind of target and see if they could squeeze a piece out of them. And there's still time to make those kind of moves. So the Red Wings don't have to position themselves to not lose certain players. If anything, they can add people ahead of the draft, and that's an exciting thing to potentially look forward to.
Sure. Good perspective. Kyle, over to you. Any move the Red Wings should have made, since most people will be watching this by the time the deadline's hit?
I believe the Red Wings are on the right path, and I think not making any moves necessarily has kind of helped them. They still have a lot of cap space. They like Devin said, they can help out other teams that definitely need to make a move. They can also look into that goalie situation, whether it's in Washington in Columbus, with one of the other teams that really need to move a goaltender. They have the options. We're running out of time. I would expect that Yzerman is on the phone every day talking to the other GMs and really feeling out what type of moves are out there, but he's not just going to make something just to make something. So I think the Red Wings standing pat is not necessarily a bad sign in terms of us looking at it from the outside.
Sure. The Red Wings are standing pat. I am currently a sitting pat, just for the record. So, in any case, for what it's worth, and I think you both brought up good points, good comments. Kyle, in my opinion, you hit the nail on the head at the very end. You're not going to make a move just to make a move. And for this expansion draft, I don't think there's any need necessarily for the Red Wings to have made a move, in my opinion. And we'll get into that in a little bit. In fact, how about right now? Let's get into the nitty gritty here. All right. Who are you exposing to the Kraken when it's all said and done? And Kyle, I'm going to start with you this time.
So who I'm exposing in the long term is going to be Svechnikov and Gustav Lindstrom. My thinking is I'm going to protect Larkin, Fabry, Vrana. Bertuzzi I'm protecting unless we just talked about potential moves. He's getting brought up in a lot of potential moves. So there is a chance that if the Red Wings want to move someone, they have opportunities. He could be one of those players. So in that case, it would depend on who we got back for Bertuzzi. But in this scenario, we're standing pat and you're sitting pat. So Bertuzzi is with us. So I'm also going to protect him. And then my final three forwards are going to be Nemestikov, Rasmussen, and I'm protecting Smith. I love Giovanni Smith. I think he's going to be a key piece moving forward. And so I'm protecting Smith and exposing Svechnikov and Lindstrom. Sorry, I didn't on the back end. I'm protecting Stecher, Hronik, and Cholowski.
So Svechnikov, I know somebody else on this show who might have a feeling or two about that. Let's swing it over to that individual. Devin, your thoughts?
I'm going to be so off-brand when it comes to Svechnikov because I'm exposing him too. But no, my seven forwards that I'm protecting are Larkin, Bertuzzi, Vrana, and Fabry. I think those four are like the safest of the four, or the safest of the bunch. Rasmussen makes it 5. Giovanni Smith, I think everyone on this show loves him. I think I'm going to be surprised if one of us leaves him open to Seattle. And then my last one that I'm protecting is Adam Ernie.
Yep.
He was Detroit's leading scorer this year. Solid fourth line guy. I want to see him do it again next season. So the big name of the forwards that I'm leaving exposed are Vlad Nemestikov and Evgeny Svechnikov. On defense, I'm going all righties, and I didn't think I would, but I've kind of made up my mind about something. Hronik, Stecher, and Lindstrom I'm protecting. That leaves Dennis Cholowski as kind of the big defenseman that's left exposed. And the reason why I leave him exposed is because he requires waivers next year to go down to the AHL. So if Seattle wants him, one of two things is going through their minds. Either they're going to give him an opportunity next year, and good on Cholowski if he gets that opportunity, or two, they're content with passing him through waivers and letting another team potentially grab him, and that doesn't quite make sense to me. So I leave Cholowski exposed with the expectation that Seattle's looking at the forwards at that point.
Sure. Cholowski coined the next Jakob Kindle by a beloved member of our team, good old Tony Wolek. So hat tip to you, Tony, on that one, because that got me to literally audibly laugh out loud. So I appreciate it. Okay, so no surprises here. I'll be honest, too, in terms of just summarizing everything that I've seen. It really seems like Nemesnikov is one of the biggest names that is always included. And then if you look, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, but if you look at from Seattle's perspective, it also seems like he's drawing quite a bit of interest from Seattle, which is interesting. But before we do that, and I'm going to throw a little wild card at you guys super quick, because I want to throw out a name, Troy Stecher, if I can say it, because it surprises me just how much talk there is in him not being protected. Because if Troy Stecher is not protected, granted, there's a lot of considerations, terms of his deal, etc. But for Troy Stecher to be left unprotected, in my opinion, Seattle would be fools to not pick him up, considering what he did in Detroit. But there is serious speculation that he will, in fact, be left unprotected. So we're going to, Devin, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on kind of the Troy Stecher drama. And it doesn't have to be anything long or elaborate, but I'm just curious, do you think he gets left unprotected, and what happens if that happens?
I think there's certainly a chance that he gets left unprotected. If Yzerman kind of takes the route of protecting Detroit's guys, you know, the ones that they've drafted and developed, which would mean Hronek and Cholowski and Lindstrom, then I guess that makes sense. You know, Stecher, he was signed in the offseason. He wasn't drafted by the Red Wings. He was a good offseason signing, but it's not like he's been with the team so long that like there's a real, you know, attachment to the guy.
Yep.
And also there's just, like you said, if he's available, he's probably going to be the pick, and that would draw attention away from forwards that you might leave exposed.
Yep, absolutely. Kyle, your thoughts on Stecher and what happens if he gets left unprotected?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the season, I would have thought he was going to be unprotected. You know,
Sure.
I think he really played himself into that protection role. But Devin said it perfectly. You know, if we leave him exposed, he's likely going to be the selection. And then you can have these forwards that are younger that you've really brought up within your system and still have them at your disposal without giving one of them a key piece to your future up, to Seattle right away. I think it definitely throws a curveball at Seattle and a couple of the other teams as they're kind of planning something out. And maybe it's a case where they leave him exposed, but then work a backdoor deal with Seattle where they pick someone else. And so who knows? I mean, you know, we got to hope that Yzerman is thinking about that, and I'll give it back to Devin. I think he's got a comment on that, but I really think, you know, Stecher in my mind played himself into a protection role, which is why I'm protecting him. But yeah, it might not be that same way in the view set of the people in the draft room.
Devin, you had something?
Yes, there's some legitimate strategy that goes into making these protection lists. At some point, you're almost playing chicken with Seattle, and leaving a guy like Stecher is very much playing chicken and saying, "Hey, I dare you to take him."
Yep. Yeah. And what our viewers keep in mind, while it feels vulnerable putting a player out there, Seattle's got 30 other teams, 29 other teams, whatever, that also are exposing defensemen of various levels of talent.
Right.
So just because he's out there doesn't mean he's going to get taken. But I will tell you, any player in this day and age that can make Mark Stahl look like a good defenseman should be protected in the expansion draft.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
That's my take. Well, thanks for letting me. I threw a curveball, but I was waiting to hear your answers, and nobody exposed Stecher, so I thought I'd at least ask the question because there is some considerable buzz around that. So we'll see how it plays out. But now let's make our picks, fellas. Let's put on your best Nirvana shirt, grab your Starbucks coffee, head down the road to the Mariners game, and you tell me, you be Seattle. Who do you take? Devin, we start with you.
Based on my protection list, I'm taking Vladislav Nemesnikov. Solid middle six guy on a 1-year deal, I think at $2 million, very manageable. If they are contenders, he can be kind of a piece for them. If they're sellers, they can get a nice little return for him. And as far as Detroit's concerned, again, another free agent signing. I don't think anyone's going to be too heartbroken if Nemesnikov is the name that's called by Seattle.
Good points. Kyle, your thoughts?
Based off of my protection and exposure list, even though I did leave Adam Ernie exposed, and I think he might garner some looks, I'm going, as I'm wearing my Nirvana shirt, I'm going with Svechnikov. I'm giving him a change of scenery. I'm moving him out to the Pacific Northwest and letting him, kind of join this new team of ragtag players and give him that start, that fresh start that I feel like if he were to really get, he could really thrive off of. And I wanted him to succeed in Detroit, but honestly, I think that fresh start would be huge for him, and I would love to see it happen. And if he is selected, I wish him all the best out there.
Well, let me tell you, it does not smell like teen spirit on this show because we are sending the grizzled old vet Nemesnikov to Seattle. If this panel has anything to say about it, because for what it's worth, that was my pick as well. I look around, it seems like there's a ton of buzz in Seattle around. Like everybody expects Nemesnikov to be kind of placed. And again, going back to Tony's article, and if you haven't read it, you should check it out because it's a really good article. But he kind of said at the end, if this is what you're worried about, that Nemesnikov is going to get claimed, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it kind of gives you a sense of where the Red Wings are as a team, that they don't have to worry too much about any major cog being taken away, but it's part of the process, and we're seeing the team grow right in front of our eyes. So it's a hat trick. I think Nemesnikov is the one that Seattle takes as well. We'll see what happens, but it'll be fun to watch this week for sure. Thanks for playing along. That was good stuff. One more expansion topic. Let's go back to Devin's adopted team entering the league, the Vegas Golden Knights. And remember their magical Stanley Cup final run. As I sat at home and watched with jealousy with every playoff win that they had. These fans of a team for the first time in their life go to the Stanley Cup final. But I digress. Can Seattle do that? Kyle, start with you.
I think they'll be competitive. I don't think they will be Vegas competitive. And what I mean by that is they're going to be in kind of a weaker division. So they'll be competitive. They will be possibly fighting for a playoff spot. But I don't see them, being like Vegas did and really just kind of coming out of the gate on fire and being able to ride a Marc-Andre Fleury to the Stanley Cup final. There's going to be good goalies out there, but there's not going to be likely. I don't want to say that because Marc-Andre Fleury might be available. We don't know.
Wouldn't that be wild?
That would be insane. And if that were the case, if that were the case and they picked him up, then I would say, yes, they'll be Vegas successful. I'm going to say right now, they will be middle of the pack, competing maybe for that, right around the 8 to 10 spot in the West.
Devin, your thoughts on the type of season Seattle may have?
I just want to start by saying that your Seattle dad jokes are hitting me right in the heart-shaped box. Anyways,
yes! That one almost got by me too.
Shout out to Kurt Cobain. Anyways, I think that Kyle made a really good point with the Pacific Division. I think that they might be competitive based solely on the teams they play more often than not. They could sneak in just because of that. The reason why, there's a couple of reasons why I don't think they'll be Vegas competitive in year one. One reason is that you can't bet on an expansion team doing what Vegas did. That was very much an anomaly. I feel bad for Seattle in a way because Vegas
that's the bar.
Exactly. Like if no one was expecting Vegas to come in and do what they did, absolutely nobody. So I don't think that we should now expect Seattle to do it. My other point is that Ron Francis is their general manager. Based off of his tenure with the Carolina Hurricanes, he took a very slow and steady approach to building that team. And I don't see why he wouldn't do that with a team that he has to build from the ground up. You don't build a contender overnight. You just don't, unless you're Vegas. So I don't know. I see Francis making this a very young team with a couple of quality veterans mixed in. They'll be, like Kyle said, good, not great. If they make the playoffs, great. I think what's more important to them is long-term sustainability.
Yep. Absolutely. Keep your eyes peeled for Ben Bishop. We'll see. Saw that he waived his no movement clause. So there's some interesting things to be had for sure. But for what it's worth, I echo both of your sentiments. There's no way to tell, but probably not. That was an anomaly times 10 what Vegas did. And while fun to watch, not likely to happen again. So I'd hold off on buying that Kraken sweater just yet if you're not quite committed to the team.
Buy the sweater, rock the Kraken. I mean, we want all the team, but don't expect them to be in the finals.
don't place a Stanley Cup bet. Don't do
that. I mean, the odds are going to be great, so maybe you do, but don't.
Wait, mortgage. Kyle is devil's advocate over here, playing that role.
I mean, I'll put $5 on him. Why not? But I'm not going to drop, my mortgage on.
All right, touche. I'll be right back. I gotta go do something.
Oh, good stuff. Well, speaking of money, let's pay some bills. Want to thank you for watching our show. Give us a like, subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. There's so much good stuff on here. We talk about it every week. Blackhawks banter, Sabres scoop, chicks and sticks, and as always, the Hockey Writers Live with Mark Sheg. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for our morning skate newsletter to get the best hockey delivered right to you. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. And I mean, we'll get your news any way you want. If you want us to send Morse code, we'll do that. So just let us know. Thank you so much for all of your comments, for all of your likes, and for watching us every week. We really do appreciate it and enjoy interacting with you. So keep them coming. So let's move on. We talked about the expansion draft. That's old news because 2 days later, gentlemen, we've got the NHL Entry Draft. I told you, lots of drafts happening. So because the next time we film, it will coincide with round one, if you will, the first night of the draft. Let's talk a little NHL Entry Draft right now on the back half of our show here. So let's start with the basics in terms of the entry draft. Before anything happens, you see, again, lots of teams wheeling and dealing, doing what they got to do. Do they trade up? Do they trade back? And that's where we always start when we talk about the draft. The Red Wings have 2 picks in the first round, number 6, number 22. And for those being technical on me, yes, number 6 and number 23 or whatever. But because Arizona's gone, I digress. 6 and 22 is the way it works out. And how do you feel about that? Are you good with those 2 picks? Do you want to trade up? Do you want to trade back? What are your thoughts? Kyle, let's start with you.
My thoughts on this. We touched on this a little bit ago on our grind line column. And I mentioned it there, and I think I'm still going to stand by that initial thought, but why don't we trade back? Number 6, trade back somewhere in like the 11 to 15 range. I believe, Devin, you wrote an article trading with Philly around the 13 and Lawton, I believe it was. But why not look at, Chicago at 11, Calgary at 12, Philly at 13, Dallas at 14, or the Rangers at 15. They have, the want to move up to get the piece that they really are looking for. They have either assets they could move or other draft picks that we could look at, whether it's later in the rounds or next year. Let's kind of use where we are now and build on that capital by trading back just a few picks. I think in that case, we still would be good at going after Wallstedt. I think, he's might drop out of the top 10. There's been talk about Edvinsson dropping out of the top 10. So, so why not drop out of the top 10, build some more capital, and still go after those guys? And there's still going to be plenty of decent picks at those spots, that we're going to get more for it.
Kyle's trading back. Devin, your thoughts?
Well, since we're talking about trades, I'm going to be a trade breaker right now. The Red Wings just acquired Nick Leddy as we're talking right now from the New York Islanders.
Okay.
They acquired Leddy from the Islanders for Richard Panik and a second-round pick in this year's draft. I do not know which second-round pick it is.
Wow.
But Nick Leddy is a Detroit Red Wing, and he is a left-handed defenseman, and that's a need.
Holy
cow. Well,
and look at us, trade breakers.
Now let's go back for a minute here.
We're gonna have to start this show over because I now got to reprotect.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Panik was gonna be left exposed.
Yeah. And I think now you got
to protect Leddy
and let Cholowski go.
Cholowski's gone.
Yeah.
Well, not gone. I mean, I don't know if he's gone.
Well, maybe, then that's the thing. Do you let Stecher go too and keep Cholowski because he's younger? And Man. Or now is it Stecher versus Lidstrom?
Hockey nerds, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
welcome to seeing hockey fans.
You are literally
absolutely geek
seeing
out.
our brain trying to turn these wheels.
The pick is Edmonton's acquired from the Athanasiou deal, so it's pick 52 technically.
Okay.
Wait,
is the second
No, we
round.
have pick 52 already.
No, that's what we gave up.
It was
That's what we gave
traded
up.
to
Poor
that's
Leddy
what,
with
that's
Panic.
what I got it.
So in a weird way, the Red Wings traded Athanasiou and Anthony Mantha for kind of Nick Leddy.
No, I could draw that. I could draw that line.
I see a trade tree article coming up.
Yes, absolutely.
Devin,
So anyways, what were we talking about again?
That, right? Yeah. It's so
Oh.
we were talking about the NHL, the entry draft. But I think it is important for anybody who is watching throughout that excitement to understand what just happened. And basically, what we just talked about 10 minutes ago, you don't have to tear it up per se, but it changed. It changed drastically
while we
within
were
a matter
filming.
of minutes. And
Yes.
if you recall, before we started, we talked about the deadline is here. You had to make a move.
Yeah.
Was that tomorrow? Is it tomorrow at noon or something?
Tomorrow, yep.
Yeah.
So this is the last opportunity as we're filming this show for them to do it, and for Yzerman to pull that deal and get a left-handed shot with Leddy on the blue line too is obviously exciting.
Yeah.
We'll react more to this as it unfolds throughout the week. You could probably check out some written thoughts on that too if I were a betting man, which I am. So make sure you come back now. Let's dial it back into the entry draft because Devin, we're going to ask you: are you trading up or trading back?
All right.
Or not doing anything for that matter.
I think now there's even more of a case to trade back because Yzerman just traded a pick, so now you can recoup that pick technically if you trade back. Before this happened, I'm content with 6. If a good offer is there to move back, I will consider it. But as it sits right now, I'm good with 6. 22, 23, whatever you want to call it. That's the one where I would like to keep my options open if I'm Steve Yzerman. You can trade back. There's still going to be plenty of crapshoot prospects to take a shot on if you move back to even 29. Or if you're hell-bent on getting one of those goalies, and I know Kevin talked about this when we had him on, they're kind of in a weird spot where they're maybe a little too early for Wallstedt, but also maybe a little too late at 22 for Kosa. If you want to get one of those goalies, you're probably going to have to either bite the bullet and take Wallstedt at 6,
yes,
or trade up from 22 to then take Kosa somewhere in the teens. I would love to get one of those 2 goalies. I know I've already talked about this. I'm apprehensive about Wallstedt at 6. So I would seriously consider making a maneuver to move up to take Kosa. Nashville, I think, is at 17 or 18, and then Winnipeg's right after them at 18 or 19. I would call up one of those 2 and say, hey, extra second round pick, we'll swap first round picks. What deal or no deal,
Yeah, and I mean, I think for what it's worth, I wouldn't move. It's just my thing. Maybe it's because I see the order, I do my planning, I feel nice and warm. I feel nice and warm, fuzzy inside, and I'm like, I'm not going to move, and I'm not going to give away the end of the show what I'm going to do at 6 just yet. But it's always been of my opinion. I don't care where you pick. If somebody's projected 12th. But you're picking 6. I mean, unless you can get a sweet deal by trading back, just make your pick. Just make your pick. But I understand the argument. I'm going to get lambasted in the comments, and rightfully so. But to me, if you want Wallstedt, you don't worry about whether he's projected 12, 13, 14, 15. Just take him.
Yeah.
Take him. And if you're concerned about Kosa getting taken in the teens or whatever, then that's another story if you want to trade up. But I would never, well, I shouldn't say never. It's hard for me mentally to grasp trading a higher pick back when you already are positioned to pick higher. Now, I get the arguments, and especially in a draft like this that frankly isn't that deep. So it doesn't matter if you're picking 6th or 10th. Probably not. But I asked for my own opinion, and I gave it. So there it is.
To your point, nobody had Sider at 6. They liked the guy. They took him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And yeah, to both those points, yeah, if they like the guy, they're going to take him. Yzerman's already proven that with Sider, like you said. But my reasoning for trading back the higher pick is you can get more capital in return. So you can get another pick to kind of, shore up. So if the ones you're really isn't there, you still have another shot later in the draft to throw another dart. Like Kevin said, the more darts you have at the dartboard, the better chance you're going to have of hitting something. And then also, if everyone else is sold that this goaltender is not good enough for the top 10, then being somewhere in 11 through 15, you're still putting yourself in the position to A, get him, or B, just pick up the other goalie right away, and then you still have that other 22nd pick.
Yep. I think they're interesting points. And it makes perfect sense.
Right.
It's why I'm not a GM for sure. But like, again, to me, if you like Jesper, like, I wouldn't take a chance in saying we want Wallstead, but we're willing to take on a few more, like we'll get a few more assets and pick him 12th instead.
Yeah.
And then the Blackhawks pick him 11th.
Yeah.
And if Greg Boyson has anything to say about it, he's taking Jesper.
Greg?
So
yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Greg on blast, our friends over at Blackhawks Panther. He did take Costa rather early, but that has been trending in a lot of mock drafts lately. You guys both mentioned the Predators, especially with Rene retiring and everything. It has generated Costa's been generating a lot of buzz, and that's what gets so exciting as we get closer to the entry draft, not to be confused with the expansion draft. So while we were on that topic for a very long time between breaking news, follow-up questions, but thanks for bearing with us on that. So in that regard, who are you taking? And I'll go first. I'm taking Jesper. I am taking Jesper at 6th. I'm not trading back. I'm taking Jesper. He's going to give me all the Sweden happy feelings and go between the pipes and post shutouts and win Vezinas and Stanley Cups and everything else. I'm picking Jesper. Kyle, who you got at 6?
At 6, staying pat. Before we found out we just got Nick Leddy.
Yeah, for real.
I have Simon Edvinsson as my choice. And then as we get to the 22nd, I'll jump into that more, but I'm going Simon Edvinsson. I might switch that now. I did have a second for Mason McTavish. Now with Leddy, I might switch that over to McTavish or another center, depending on who's still there. But as we have my notes down, I'll just go off the initial notes. I'm going Edvinsson. I
love McTavish. And the other thing I would say is, if Hughes is still available, I think about it.
I think
Devin. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Kyle, you had something?
I was just going to say, I think if Hughes is there,
I mean, I don't see, but if he's still available,
if he's available, I think he's probably the only one in this draft that is, if he is available, you have to take him.
But I think we're all kind of operating on the assumption that he will not be. So
absolutely.
And now Devin's going to take him. Watch, Devin, who you got?
Rachel said it last week. I'm going to echo what she said. If William Eklund is there, that is my pick. I don't know that he's going to be there at 6. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So assuming that he's not there, I picked Mason McTavish in our mock draft. So I'm going to stand by my pick and say the Red Wings are getting a center.
Okay.
Makes sense. And all reasonable picks. As we have said time and time again, there is no clear order in this draft. It's a general understood consensus. Owen Power is going number 1, but that's not even written in stone. So we'll see what happens, but really good perspective. And remember, oh, by the way, the Red Wings have another pick in the first round, thanks to the Anthony Mantha deal, pick number 22. Who are you taking with pick number 22? And Devin, you finished last time, so we'll start with you.
I'll start by saying, again, in that mock draft, I took defenseman Carson Lambos, and I stuck with McTavish. So I'll stick with Lambos. If he's there, I think that he would really cement the solid crop of blue line prospects that the Red Wings have. One other guy that I will throw out is Aatu Räty, who was going into this season, he was kind of the unanimous choice as the top prospect in this draft. And then he kind of had a bad season, and now he's fallen. I don't think that potential goes away overnight, I think he's somebody that I would take a risk on if he's there.
So, Devin, I know the mock draft, I don't want to say it went sideways, but nobody expected to see Kosa go at 11th. I know you're sticking true to what you did in your draft and totally respect that. But I am curious, since you're not taking Wallstead 6th, if Kosa is available at 22, you take him? You consider him?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes. I'm operating under the assumption he won't be there.
Sure.
But if he's there, 100%, that yes.
That's what I thought. And I forgot to lead off this segment with, in the ideal world of puppies and unicorns, where the person you want is available, who do you take? But I think it's super good perspective. And that's why I wanted to throw that one out there, because there's been a lot of talk about Kosa. Nobody quite knows where he's going to go. But I think if the Red Wings don't go goalie at 6, they at least give him a look if he's still available. Kyle, number 22, what you thinking?
Well, in the universe of puppies and unicorns at 22, Wallsted's still there. So
Owen Power at 22.
Hughes at 22. I mean, he's still there. So, we're getting him with the 6th and the 22nd. So we're just going to draft his other brother that no one knows is coming up yet. So if Kasa's there, Kasa is definitely my choice. I think one of those two goaltenders needs to be selected, and we're going under the assumption right now that we're not moving our picks. We're at 6. We're at 22. Nothing's changing. So if Kasa's there, he is my selection. If he's not there, since I'm taking Edvinsson with my number 6 pick, I'm actually looking at Stankoven from the WHL. He's a center. He played on Team Canada this year. I thought he looked really good. I think he's going to be one of those, two-way centers that will really fit with our type of play in Detroit. And so that's going to be my pick. And then, if we do end up going with McTavish, like I said, because of Leddy, I did like Lambos at 22, as Devin said.
Makes sense. So I do have to ask, have I been pronouncing his name wrong the entire time? Because I thought it was Kosa. Is it not Kosa?
I've heard it both ways.
What did I say?
You said Casa, which like you're from Boston.
Mi casa, su casa.
Yeah, there you go. I suppose time will tell. Maybe we'll find out when the Red Wings call his name.
I think it is Kosa. I think I just blacked out there.
I'm not. I was just curious. And so then to that point, for what it's worth, obviously I wanted Jesper at 6, so I don't think I'm going Kosa at 22 either. But I was kind of perusing, and I landed on Fedor Svechkov.
Okay.
I think he brings a really good two-way forward mindset to the team. He's got the ability to create some defense. He just played in the U18 World Championships, silver medal, had 10 points in 7 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, I think. But he makes stuff happen. He's a good two-way player, and I think the Wings could benefit from a lot of their good two-way players are getting old and shipping out.
Yeah.
So
Plus,
they could benefit. Yeah.
Plus, if the Red Wings are going to lose Svechnikov, why not replace him with Svechkov, right?
It's a nice transition. Easy transition. I like it.
Really easy to change his the nameplate above his locker.
Yes.
Well, cut and paste.
You're wearing number 37, kid. Sorry.
There's just white out.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And again, should the Wings not take Wallstead, I think it makes all the sense in the world to take Kosa if he's still available. But it seems like even though those are the two goalies everybody's talking about, I don't know why it feels like everybody wants them, even though they don't. But it feels like everybody's opining after them. So we'll see. But I wanted to give Svechkov some love because I thought he's been playing very well. I think after he matures a little bit more, he's got a really high ceiling and can be a really strong two-way forward for the team. So, let's stay on the entry draft, but let's move right into the second round and beyond. How important is it for this team to hit their picks in the second round? I mean, the Red Wings used to be notorious for drafting your diamonds in the rough, if you will. We can look at certainly recent examples, second round examples with Jonathan Berggren, Philip Hronik, Tyler Bertuzzi. You want to start playing the history game. Pavel Datsyuk was a 6th rounder. Hank Zetterberg was a 7th rounder. So you can hit in those later rounds. And some years are a little more critical than others in your ability or how important it is that you do so. So Devin, how important is it that the Red Wings hit in the later rounds? And is there anybody, and this is kind of a loaded question, but is there anybody who maybe you're looking towards that may slip? There's always a few that slide down. Anybody you're keeping your eye on?
So I've got 2 points to make here. One, the reason why the Red Wings were able to sustain a competitive team beyond the Steve Yzerman era was because they hit on Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg in the late rounds. Absolutely. They didn't have first round picks in that time. And that is how you can sustain success, is when you hit on those picks outside of the first round. My next point is that the difference between building up a team like Tampa Bay versus what, like, say Buffalo is going through right now is hitting on picks outside of the first round. The Sabres got good players in the first round. They've got Rasmus Dahlin, they've got Jack Eichel, whatever. If you name a good player on the roster, I guarantee you they were picked in the first round. Mm-hmm. If you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and you say, Nikita Kucherov, 2nd round pick. Oh, Braden Point, 3rd round pick. That is the difference between building something that is sustainable and something that will take forever to build up. That is why it's incredibly important that the Red Wings hit on picks, outside of the first round. You got to hit on your first round picks, but if you want to be successful sooner rather than later, you got to hit on those later picks as well.
Devin, who made those picks at Tampa?
I believe that was Steve Yzerman. I could be wrong.
Okay. We'll have our fact checkers look into it. Validated. Okay.
So yeah, I think Hockey Town has a lot to be excited about. Anyways, as for players that I know I have my eye on, I've got 2 defensemen in mind. One is Stanislav Svozil. I covered Team Czech Republic in the World Juniors in December, January, or winter, and he really stood out to me. I think that this might not sound appealing to everybody, but he plays Jeff Blashill hockey. He plays very conservative, but he also is able to push the pace when he has the opportunity. I think he has middle pairing, potentially top pairing potential in him. Love the kid. And then the other guy is Olin Zellweger. Small kid, 5'9", and when you're that small, you have to have explosiveness to your game. Otherwise, you're not going to stand out, literally. But he has that. I got bad jokes too. But he has that explosiveness. He really looks like he could be a diamond in the rough. It's kind of a cheap thing to compare him to, but I honestly think he has a little bit of Torrey Krug in him. And if the Red Wings can come out of the second round with a Torrey Krug type of player, I think they're looking pretty good.
I would say so. Kyle, your thoughts on the importance of the second round and beyond? And is there anybody you're keeping your eye out for?
I want to add a couple names to that Yzerman draft down in Tampa Bay.
There we go.
Anthony Cirelli, Ross Colton. These are guys that Yzerman was able to take in later rounds, and they have done so great down in Tampa Bay, not only throughout the organization, but just to play those roles in which they were drafted for and taught to play. Like, they are role players that play through and through. And I would love to have either of those guys on the Red Wings. And if we can have some of those guys come from this year's draft or next year's draft, I mean, I think that's huge. Picking in the late rounds are, like you pointed out earlier in the past, absolutely, it's a dart toss, but you have to hit, right? If you want to have a successful organization, you have to be able to continue to get those guys that aren't developed yet, but are going to develop as they become men. You know, we're talking about 18-year-old boys right now still. Yep. These are still kids. These are still kids that are learning the game at that adult level and learning the game at that, to think and compete at that advanced level. And so some are going to be later bloomers than others. And you've got to be able to find that potential. And then not only that, but have the staff in place to develop it. So I think it's going to be really, really huge, to your point, that we have to hit on those late round picks, but then we also have to develop them properly too. And Yzerman's staff in the past has done a great job of that. Obviously, look at Tampa Bay and all their players that they have brought up through development, and then look at what we have seen just over the past 2-3 seasons in Detroit as we have brought up those players as well. So yes, it is very imperative we hit on some of those late picks. I don't have anyone in mind, only because this is such a crapshoot of a draft that there could be 5 or 6 players from the first round that we think are going to go pretty high that are going to end up in the second, or it could go right down the list of every, mock draft that we've done, just based on who's available. We don't know. So in those terms, I don't have anyone I'm looking at, but I think the second, third, and fourth rounds are going to be huge this year.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Kyle, in that especially it's hard to pinpoint, and Devin, tip of the cap for pulling out names, because I really struggled to look and see who would slide down. Because if I get my, who's to say, and we've been talking about him all show, who's to say Costa doesn't fall to the second round? He's projected anywhere from mid-teens to upper 30s. Yeah. So depending on what teams are doing, some of these surefire, almost everybody agrees Costa is going to be an NHL starting goalie. Yeah. And it wouldn't be unthinkable for him to slip into the second round. So it's a crapshoot. For what it's worth, from my perspective, of course you always want to hit on your draft picks, right? You always want to hit on your draft picks. Devin, I think you called it out perfectly. I think the later rounds are important for some teams. I don't think it's as important for the Red Wings. Not that it's not important, and I'm not trying to discount it, but they've got high draft picks. They've got number 6. They've got number 22. The years where they didn't have, I think, what was it? The last time was Martin Lapointe when they had a top 5 before a few years ago or whatever it was. And that's where you got to hit your Datsyuks and your Zetterbergs, because you're so good, you're not getting high picks unless you make a trade. Right. So, not to say it's not important, but I feel as if it's not as important for the Red Wings to hit this year. Not that I don't want them to, so stop your comments. I'm not saying I don't want to, but I do think it's important that, obviously it's important they hit, but I don't think there's a crazy amount of importance around this one compared to previous years when they don't have the luxury of being so bad that they have good high first round draft picks. How's that for a luxury? How's that for a way to wrap our show, guys? Let me tell you. And on that note, in all seriousness, what a cool show. We found out about the Nick Leddy trade together, which was super fun. Cool. I hope you guys at home enjoyed it. Please make sure you give us a like, subscribe, shoot us a comment. Follow us on Twitter. We have so much fun together. We have so much fun interacting with you guys watching. And I'm not kidding. Really, really appreciative of all the support we've received. This is now show 32, I believe. Yep. So unbelievable. But I like it. I can't believe we missed show 30, by the way. That I didn't say anything about.
Well, that was the Kevin show, wasn't that?
It was.
Yeah. So we were a little starstruck that show. So I don't think we're really planning on saying much that show.
It would have been some crazy stuff if McCarty was episode 25.
Oh my gosh.
That would have been great. So we'll have to 125 is too far in the future. So
we'll 50, look forward to Chris Draper next week, right?
Oh yeah. There you go.
Someone call draft. Yeah, he's not on Friday night next week.
Oh man. Can't wait till episode 91. Yes. On that note, wow, we got sidetracked in a hurry. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Enjoy all the draft stuff. Make sure you check us out, and we will see you next time. Thanks again.